cracking.
Hey guys, Hackersploit here, back again with another video, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to install and use Beelogger on Kali Linux to create a keylogger that can be used on Windows. So again, we're going to be using Beelogger, which is a very powerful tool, but it does have some issues which we'll look into in the next step. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be using the GitHub repository for installation. Additionally, you could use the lazy script to install Beelogger, which is much easier, but if you guys are going with this method, it works perfectly as well. So what you want to do is go to the GitHub repository. I will leave the link in the description section so you can check it out for yourself. So all credits go to the hawker, which is 4W4K3. He's the one who created Beelogger, so all credits go to him. So what we're going to do is we're just going to clone this GitHub repository. So I'm just going to copy the link and we can get started with the terminal. Alright, so first things first, let me just enlarge the terminal so we can see what's going on. Alrighty, so the first thing, I'm going to enter root, sudo bash, and let me enter my password in. There we are. So now I want to browse to my desktop because that's where I want to install Beelogger, download and install the files for Beelogger. So we're going to clone the repository, git clone, and I'm going to paste in the GitHub link that we copied, and I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it's going to create our Beelogger folder, and hopefully this shouldn't take too much time. I'm using a VPN for my connection, which is why it'll probably take a few seconds to download. So again, yours might be different if you're using your active ISP connection, but I'm using a VPN that's limited to 500 kilobits per second. So I'll meet you when it's done. Alrighty, so once it's done downloading, we can actually continue. So we're going to browse into the Beelogger. We're going to browse into the Beelogger folder. So we're going to change the directory. Oops, let me just clear that out. So cd Beelogger, like so, and now we can look into the Beelogger folder, and we have the install.sh file, which is a bash script. So as you can see, we do have the permissions to run it, so it shouldn't be a problem at all to start the installation process. So I'm going to just use the installation, so install.sh, okay, and it's going to begin the installation process for the Beelogger script. So just give it a few seconds to start up because it does need to set up additional dependencies like Wine and Python or PyCharm, for example. So just let it start reading the package lists and we can get started with the installation process. So as I said, just give it a few seconds. It shouldn't take too much time. And as you can see, it's going to ask us for our Wine configuration. So I'm just going to hit default settings and maybe change it to Windows 7 and hit apply. And then I'm going to hit OK. Alright, and after that it's going to ask us to set up Python 2.7. So as you can see, I already have it installed, so I'm just going to hit finish, and it's going to just repair Python, but in your case it'll prompt you to install Python additionally all over again, or install it fresh. So make sure you do that, and I've already installed Python. The next thing it's going to ask me to install is PyWin. So the 2-bit version. So I'm just going to hit next and next, and it's going to install that for me. Pretty simple. So just let that complete, and it shouldn't take too much time now. There we are. Alright, so I'm just going to finish that installation, and now it's going to ask me to install Pyhook. Right, Pyhook is very important in this. So as I said, I already have mine installed. So I'm just going to breeze over these installation processes, and there we are. So we've installed Beelogger now, and you might be asking yourself, well, how do I access Beelogger? If we view if we basically look inside the folder, we have the b.py, so Python and b.py, and if we start that up, as you can see, we have the Beelogger opened and running. So in addition, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to exit, and I'm going to start in a new terminal altogether because that has brought a few issues before after I've installed the Pyhook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter root again, excuse me, like so, and cd desktop, and obviously cd Beelogger, and python b.py, like so, and there we are. So we're currently in the Beelogger script right now, and it's going to ask you, as I said, it's going to ask you now to hit enter. And before we get started, as you can see, use this for work or educational purposes. So I have to throw out a disclaimer that please use this at your own discretion, and I'm not going to be held responsible for anything you do with this tool. So just hit enter to continue. And now the options are pretty simple. It's going to ask you, it's going to give you three options. K being the option to generate the keylogger, U being to update the Beelogger, which is quite awesome that he added that. All credits go to Alison Moretto, and Q to quit. So we're going to generate the Beelogger, which is done by using the K key. So once you hit that, it's going to ask you to select what type of keylogger you want to mask exactly. So you can choose an Adobe Flash update, which is quite good and will help with social engineering to some extent. You then have your fake Word document, which is really not convincing, especially for users who are pretty familiar with computing. And we then have the fake Excel sheet, which again is not very convincing because it is going to be an exe file. We then have the fake PowerPoint, which is quite convincing because it is a PowerPoint, and less people come in contact with PowerPoint files as when compared to Excel and Word documents. We then have the fake Acrobat PDF, which is also quite convincing. We then have the blank executable. And now, before we get started with creating the Beelogger, the thing about a Beelogger is that it's very easy to create a Beelogger. When I say create a keylogger, what I mean is not to actually create a keylogger by yourself or to script it, but to create a Beelogger that you're using to gain information, or you're trying to use for either malicious intent or for testing. It really comes down to how you're going to install it on your target's computer, how you're going to run it on your target's computer. And that's where social engineering comes into place. And we'll be looking at techniques on how to be using this. And what I'm coming to really here is all of these will be detected by if you try and send any of these keyloggers in forms of, for example, an Adobe Flash update, Gmail and all of the other top email providers will detect this as a virus and will probably throw the mail in spam, or will alert the user or the target that this does indeed contain a virus. So you really have to be smart, and if it comes down to using a rootkit to mask the keylogger or to avoid antivirus detection, that's where all the whole social engineering process comes into. But as I said, we'll be looking at that in future videos and how to mask all of these exploits, or just basically how to mask your program or keylogger to avoid detection by antiviruses and of course by users, because as I said, it's going to be less likely that you can trick people with things like this. For example, a fake Word document that contains the .docx extension file, but also contains the exe extension. So it's really important to understand that. So let's get started with actually creating this keylogger. So it's going to tell you, warning, enable access to less secure apps on your email account. Now what this means is you have to actually, it's going to ask you to use a Gmail. As you can see, it's going to tell you only works with Gmail. Now why you need to enter or create a Gmail email for this is because you're going to need an email in which the keylogger program will be sending back the results to. So I would recommend creating a separate Gmail account just for getting your results back. But as you can see, it's going to tell you here, don't use your personal email. Make a dedicated separate Gmail account specific for the gathering of results. So once you've created it, you just want to click on this link. You can just open the link in a new tab, and hopefully it does that here. And it's going to ask you, if you've signed into that Gmail account, it's going to ask you to disable less secure apps on your email account. What this is going to do is it's going to allow your email to be under the control of the keylogger. So the keylogger will be able to log in and send requests and send the results from what it has gathered from your target's computer or system, and it'll save them on that email. All right. So As you can see, this keylogger will send logs 50 characters or each in intervals of 120 seconds. So again, very, very powerful, and you're getting extensive information. Of course, this will become ineffective if the user is not connected to the internet. But again, this is how these things work, and there's always pros and cons to each of the sides. So what I'm going to do, I've not created an email for this because I'll be explaining how to mask this keylogger in the next videos, where I'll be showing you how to use social engineering to avoid detection, antivirus detection, and obviously to mask it so that users cannot detect, or it does not look obvious that this indeed is a virus or malware. So I'm just going to enter a simple, we're just going to be using just a fake email address. So what I would recommend if you're going to be using this is to use the Adobe Flash update. The reason I'm saying this is because people, when they see Adobe Flash, they already know that this is an executable program. And from that, if it's an exe file, they won't be as hesitant to running it as if you would have found a document with the exe extension. So again, I'm going to use the first one. And this is obviously for social engineering purposes. So Adobe Flash update, and it's going to ask you type your Gmail to receive the logs. So I'm just going to hit test at gmail.com. As I said, in the next video, the follow-up videos I'll be making, and I'll be showing you how to essentially hide or to mask these keyloggers and other malware from detection. So I'm just going to enter random password. So test password. Of course, this email does not exist, and this password again is not real. I'm just using it to show you that indeed it does create the keylogger. So once you've entered the password, just hit enter, and it's going to ask you if this information is correct, and I'm going to hit yes, and it's going to start the creation process. As you can see, it's creating the keylogger. And just give it a few seconds. Hopefully it shouldn't take too much time. Again, it'll take different times depending on what type of executable you choose, whether you choose the Flash update or the Word documents or Excel documents, etc., etc. So that's actually done now, and hopefully I don't know where exactly it oh, there we go, saved to dist/bflash.exe. So obviously, again, as I've mentioned previously, it's going to save it in the Beelogger folder that we created in the dist folder. Now, what I was talking about here, again, when it comes down to social engineering, this is the keylogger file, very, very powerful. But again, the trick has always been making sure that this runs on your target's computer without detection and without him or her basically finding out that it's running. Now, with Beelogger, as far as I know, once you run this, it'll basically install it, and the only way to disable it as a service is through the msconfig utility in Windows. So again, it does have the ability to be disabled or to be stopped. So that was just a little tidbit I wanted to throw in there for you. So again, a bit of you could do a bit of social engineering and renaming this to look like an Adobe Flash update, and I would say 6 times out of 10 you can get your target to run this without them knowing that this is indeed malware. Now, I'm not going to be running and testing this because, as I said, if you try this on a modern Windows installation with Windows Defender enabled or running, or any other antivirus software, it's going to detect that this is a virus. And even if you try and upload this to Gmail, it'll automatically detect that this is a virus. So again, we'll have to do a bit of social engineering. In addition to that, I'm going to be creating a special little small course exclusive to the YouTube channel, where I'm going to be showing you how to create your very own keylogger with C++. Now, the reason for that, there are obviously some specific advantages of using C++, is that it is a very low-lying it's a very low level language, in the sense that if I was to create a keylogger, Windows 9 times out of 10 would not detect that this has anything to do with malware or is malicious content of any type. In addition to that, an antivirus software would not have been able to detect it. So that's basically it for this video, guys. As I said, I'm going to be making follow-up videos to this whole Beelogger section that I've created, or in the larger context, the Keylogger section on this channel. So stay tuned for that. I hope you found value in this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions, suggestions, or you just want to have a chat, you can hit me up on my social networks, or just let me know in the comment section down below. In addition, you can check out an in-depth guide of this video on my website. You can also check out the Discord server that I've created for the channel, where we'll be having discussions and where you can send me your video suggestions, and where we can basically just interact. Thank you so much for the support, and I will be seeing you in the next video. Peace.